It sure is hard being that guy's wallet. All that heavy metal he bought in 2022 almost completely broke me.
Hey, Mel, I'm going to the record store.
Huh? What? No. Oh, dear God, no, not again. There's nothing left inside me. Nothing but gas station receipts and broken promises of austerity.
Oh, hey, here's my wallet. Hey, YouTube, I'm Alan. Let's talk metal. Hope everybody is doing okay as we get the new year underway here. Turns out, before last year wrapped up, I found one more pile of extreme metal CDs at a different local record store. So, thought I'd hop on tonight and show folks what I've been spinning and still have to work on. So, I've got a stack of stuff here. Before I get into that, however, I do need to give a quick shout out and thank you to Craig Zoller. On one of the heavy metallurgy streams a while back, Craig was discussing Tank in the chat with some of the other viewers, and he mentioned one of his favorite albums is Honor and Blood. And I mentioned I'd never heard that particular Tank album. I'd kind of forgot it even existed. I've heard all the other stuff they recorded back in the 80s. And lo and behold, a few days later, Craig sent me a copy of it. It's like, you got to check this one out. So, Craig, thank you very much. It's extremely nice of you. I've seen this album before. It had just kind of, gotten erased from my memory somehow. So, looking forward to checking it out. This is a recent reissue on High Roller Records. Really nice packaging and a slipcase. So, very cool item. Thanks again, Craig. I will check it out. It's on the stack. But as we're all going to see here in a minute, the stack has gotten kind of deep. Yet again, I can't quite seem to get to the bottom of it lately. And this is due in part to the fact that yet another pile of extreme heavy metal CDs turned up at a different local record store shortly before Christmas. I have noticed over the years of collecting that the month of December is a time that you can find a lot of used heavy metal. I've always attributed it to the fact that people perhaps need to generate some extra cash during the holidays. December is a pretty expensive month for a lot of folks. You not only have all the regular expenses, but you've got holiday shopping. If you live in colder climates, utility bills get higher as you've got to ratchet up the heat. And so it's not uncommon to see a lot of stuff show up at the used local record stores, and also to show up on places like eBay, where folks will go through the shelves and figure, I guess I can do without these because got to pay bills and other things first. Priorities. And so, yeah, we had been out doing some other shopping and wrapped up a bit earlier than we'd planned. So I thought, let me actually duck in here. Haven't been by the store in a few weeks, just on the off chance. Maybe there's one cool CD that's shown up. Well, the first 3 CDs I flipped through were a black metal band whose name I still haven't figured out because the font was that messed up. So it's got to be good. I just can't figure out what it is. And also a copy of Altar of Plague's Mammal album. None of that stuff was in the store the last time I was there, so I'm only like a third of the way through the A section, and it already has dawned on me that someone has brought in an awful lot of extreme metal. This is going to take a while. I'm going to have to go through all these CDs and see what's here. And sure enough, they had. Kind of interestingly, a lot of the stuff that had been brought in was from Australian bands. So whoever had sold this stuff definitely had an affinity for the Australian sort of extreme metal scene. And yeah, I bought a bunch of them. Sorry, little guy. You suck. Maybe I do. But let's see what got on the stack this time around. First one going through the A's and into the B's. They had a Blut aus Nord used CD. The titles on these, of course, are long and crazy, but it's Fathers of an Icy Age, which is their second album. This is one of the bands I've been wanting to check out more of their discography. And lo and behold, here's a Digipack reissue sitting there in the used bin. Yeah, that's coming home with me right away. So we're off to a good start. We're only in the letter B. Get to the F's, and they had Fleurities. This is Mid-Tid Skull Comb, which is their first album from '95. And apologies if I'm off by a year or so on some of these. Again, just picked this stuff up very recently. Haven't gotten to spend any time with it really yet. So I'm still getting my head wrapped around all of them. This is a band and an album a lot of people have recommended over the years. And I've just really never come across much of their stuff. This time I did. So I picked it up and we'll give it a chance. Up next in the G section, we found Gospel of the Horns, and this is called the Hammer of Damnation. Gospel of the Horns, this is one of the Australian bands that was in the stack. Sorry, Realm of the Damned. I'm reading something off the back cover, but the album is called Realm of the Damned. Gospel of the Horns, extreme metal from Australia. They're, at least some of their stuff's on Hell's Headbangers, which gives you a pretty good idea of what to expect from it. I've never heard this band. I always thought it was an incredibly cool name for a band. You can have all your, goat whore, goat lord, goat insert name of the various body part to follow the word goat. And yeah, it's all the same kind of music. But you want to make yourself stand out in a sea full of goats, you call yourself Gospel of the Horns, because that's a name that'll resonate a tad. So don't know what it sounds like exactly. Again, we can kind of surmise based on the details of what it's on and such. But I've always wanted to check out the band. This is the first time I've ever found one of their albums out in the wild, so I was happy to add that to the stack too. And I should mention as I'm going past these, there were lots and lots of other stuff in the used bin as well. Some of them were albums I already had, albums that, just wasn't interested in. There were a few, like those first couple in the A section, that I really couldn't figure out what the heck the band logo was for, no matter which way I turned the disc or flipped it around. And unfortunately, I didn't have my phone with me because the family was waiting in the car playing Pokemon. So I was like, oh, yeah, here, go ahead and catch a Pikachu while I duck in. I'll only be a minute. I was in there for several minutes. They forgave me. They were pretty cool about it. So let's see what else had to come with me out of the store. Mournful Congregation, the band that nobody stocks around here, but this is only the second time I've come across one of their albums. This is an early one. It's either their first or second, and it is called something, something, something. Yeah, I'm well prepared tonight. Tiny, funny print. Tears from a Grieving Heart. Interestingly, I noticed there were no reviews for this one posted on Metal Archives. Don't know why. Sometimes those are helpful, sometimes they're not. But this one did not have any reviews, and this is a later pressing of it. But yeah, I see a used Mournful Congregation CD at a local record store. If I don't have it, I'm going to pick it up. The only one I have is the June Frost, which I liked quite a bit. Haven't revisited it for a while. Do have to be in the right mood for that style of heavy metal. Next up, we have something called Noctzeit. It's Noctzeit. I'm guessing this is how you pronounce it. I know exactly 3 things about this band. First, the logo is very hard to read. Second, it's on Nordvist, so okay, label's got some interesting stuff on it. And third, well, maybe I only know 2 things about the album. I've never heard of the band, but figured, hey, it's only $6. I'll add it to the stack and we'll check it out. Turns out they're a black metal outfit from Sweden, and they did have a full-length album by the band as well. This one's an EP, so figured I'll pick up the EP. If I like it a lot, I'll go back and see if they still have the full-length album. And if not, I'll kick myself for not buying the full-length album the first go-around. So yeah, this one I bought simply because it was cheap and looked interesting. Sometimes that's what you got to do when you find this stuff. Next up, here's a band, much like Gospel of the Horns. I've heard this name for years and thought it was a very cool name. Another Australian band, Runespell. And this is a split, so it's called The Wandering Forlorn, I believe. Man, these guys it wouldn't hurt him. Would it kill you to put the title right on the front cover for all of us with bad eyes? Let's see. Wandering Forlorn, yes. And it's split with a band called Forest Mysticism, who I have never heard of, don't know a thing about. Runespell is just a name I've seen. It's a one-man project, as I recall. Always seemed like a cool name. Never saw an album by them. It's sitting there in the used bin. Okay, even though it's just a split, I will certainly check it out. More from the Australian scene. Um, a lot of Doom Death, funeral doomish kind of stuff was in the bin also, including this one, which is Shape of Despair. And this one's titled Alone in the Midst. Apparently, this was a demo that this Finnish band recorded back around 98, but this wasn't actually released or pressed up until 2016. This one's on Season of Mist, and it's a numbered edition, so I have number 209 out of 1,000 for whatever that's worth. Don't know this band. I've heard people talk about them. The name stuck in the back of my head well enough that flipping through the discs I was like, what the heck is this Blue album? Shape of Despair. Oh, yeah. Someone has recommended that or given that a thumbs up at some point. The pile's already pretty big. One more is not going to make a difference. So on the pile it went. Up next, more Australian heaviness. Ulcerate, Stare into Death and Be Still. This one I had heard when it came out. I heard it on Bandcamp. I may still be in my Bandcamp wish list. I don't know if I ever actually bought it. But yeah, very intense band, very, very, extreme heaviness here. But yeah, I just never pulled the trigger on picking it up. Well, here it is used. Yes, I will pick it up at that point. Ulcerate, I've heard one of their earlier albums as well. Wasn't as impressed with that one. It had the word destroyer in the title of it, but I only heard it once long ago, so memory might be fuzzy on that. So I'm in the U's. Surely I got to the end of the alphabet without finding anything else. Well, almost. They also had a Woods of Desolation with As the Stars, another Australian one. This band is billed as a little bit more of a post-black metal sound. They have kind of a different take on it, though. This one I have heard, and this one I had bought as a download off Bandcamp a couple of years ago. It has a more traditional black metal sound in terms of a little bit more of the lo-fi cold production, the fast tremolo picking, the high screechy vocals. It's just that like the riffs and such have a little bit more of that uplifting kind of sound to them. So they kind of get lumped into, the happier post-metal side of things. It's almost maybe a little bit like, fast version of Xasther. If the dude from Xasther was happy instead of, suicidally depressed. I hadn't heard it in a long time, but I remember it was pretty good. How many is on the stack so far? 8. Okay, let's make it 9 and add that to the stack as well. So yeah, 9 CDs later, finally make it to the cash register and take a good chunk of the stuff that they had recently brought in. Had some other cool stuff too. They brought in a little bit of vinyl. I didn't go through all the vinyl, probably should have, but they had, for example, a copy of Winter's Into Darkness, the Southern Lord pressing on white vinyl. I think they had that tagged at $75. I did not know that was so expensive nowadays. They also had an album by a band called Hell. It wasn't the new wave of British heavy metal Hell. This was a different band. It had kind of a brownish reddish cover. Didn't ring a bell. I think it was also about $75. So I looked at it, it's like, that's interesting. I have no idea what this is. And by then I realized that they've probably caught all the Pokemon in the parking lot. I'm probably using up all my grace period here. Better wrap up this trip to the record store and get out of here, before the wallet is completely empty. So that's what I am working on. Some of these I've gotten a little bit of a play on by the time this video is up. Some of these are probably still sitting on the to-play pile, waiting for their chance. But there you have it. It's definitely been a good winter season for picking up extreme metal at some of the different used record stores. And again, it was kind of weird these showed up at a different store compared to the pile I bought a month or two ago. Very similar type of material, but at a different store in town. I don't know. Life's wacky sometimes. So that's going to do it for tonight. Again, I haven't listened to these enough to really comment on them. I'll report back sometime with a what's spinning, perhaps. So now let's talk metal in the comments down below. Has anyone else noticed that same pattern that you tend to see a lot of used records turning up at the record stores during the month of December or during that general holiday season? Is it just me? Am I imagining things? Or does that same phenomenon happen to you where all of a sudden a lot of things are in the used bin that hadn't been there the months before? And hey, have you been able to pick up some really cool finds in that particular manner? Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And hey, if you have some information about some of these albums, if you know, like, hey, that rune spell, that's not a good representation of rune spell, you need to listen to this one instead, please leave a comment and let me know. This is going to be my first exposure to a lot of these bands. First time hearing Shape of Despair, first time hearing Runespell, first time hearing Forest Mysticism, first time hearing Nachtzeit, I guess. First time hearing Gospel of the Horns. Might actually be my first time hearing Fluidity. I feel like I'm bound to have heard something by them by now. But anyway, if I got a particularly good album or a particularly bad album by these bands, let me know so that I can, if need be, follow up with a second album sometime that might give me a better idea of their overall sound. All right, let's wrap this one on up. So, everybody take care, and until next time, keep banging your head and keep checking those used bins, because you never know when somebody's selling off a giant pile of Australian extreme metal and just tell your wallet to shut up and deal with it. Because that always works. See ya.